Hi, I'm Ashley and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm super excited because today I'm going to talk to you about everything you need to know, in my opinion, in order to move to New York. I just recently moved out here in July of 2021, and I'm just sharing my process and what I learned going through it with you guys because there's some things that I would have loved to know that I missed, and I just feel like it's a good thing to share with others. I'm going to try to make this video straightforward and keep the information easily digestible. I'm going to segment it out into 4 different groups, and that'll be when and where are you moving, apartment hunting, budgeting, and the application process. I would say those are the 4 major things you should focus on before you move out here because it is expensive. You want to know where you're going, and you don't want to fumble in the application process because you want to get the apartment that you really want. Let's start with when and where to move. As you may or may not know, New York City is made up of 5 boroughs, and you have Brooklyn, which is where I landed in, and the Bronx, Manhattan, Queens, and Staten Island. Within those boroughs, you have many different neighborhoods. The public transit system out here is fantastic. You have the trains that help connect all the neighborhoods, the ferries, and there's a lot of city bikes around too. So there's a lot of different ways to get around. Shout out to people that don't ride on the sidewalk, their bikes or electric bikes. I would definitely recommend trying to get your neighborhoods narrowed down before you come out to do your apartment hunting. This is important because you're going to be able to spend more time in the neighborhoods that you're really interested in, and it's just going to make everything more efficient in the process. You'll be able to look at more apartments in those specialized places that you want to look at. So definitely do your research and try to figure out where you really think you want to look and live. And once you've figured out where you want to live, and you can do this hand in hand, come up with a budget. So you'll have your budget, you'll know where you want to live, and then about 3 to 4 months ahead of time, this is at least when I did it, I started going on websites like Street Easy, Compass, and Corcoran, and looking at by neighborhood and in my budget apartments. And I will tell you right now that those apartments will not be available 99% of the time, not be available in the 3 months following that, but it will give you a good and broad idea of what's out there. And you can also save buildings on those websites, and maybe something will pop up when you are actually looking. It's also a great way to start talking to brokers and agents and setting up appointments for when you do decide to come to New York. I would just highly recommend when you do talk to somebody to check out reviews on them, and just know that you don't have to work with the same person. If you don't like somebody, there's a bunch of them out here, so you can always find somebody else to work. Another warning would be not to rent an apartment solely by looking at photos online because they are easily doctored, and I personally went to places that did not look anything like the photos online. There's also people that would just post those and then try to reroute you to renting a completely different place. So it's a good place to get an idea on those websites and to meet the actual brokers. So once you have an idea and you've talked to some brokers and agents, you can start getting ready to come out and do your apartment hunt, which is so much fun. Should be a good time. And I would recommend doing this about a month to 2 weeks before you are ready to start that lease. The process moves extremely fast out here. There's a lot of people looking for places. You want to be ready to get your place, and especially in like a high season, the busy season, which I would say is end of spring, so May to September is when a lot of people are moving in the summertime. It's really crazy. I'm going to say this a lot, and it's a little hypocritical because I did end up finding my apartment virtually, but I also came out and looked at apartments. Tried to add it into your budget to come out here and see what the neighborhood is actually like. It's gonna make such a difference. You can go into the apartments and see what they look like. You can spend time in the neighborhood, and I would encourage you to spend like a good amount of time, stay in the neighborhood, see what the grocery store is at. Is the energy high? Are there crazy bars? Is it quiet? Is it some place that you can see yourself living, right? It just makes a world of a difference. And it was also just helpful when our apartment fell through that we looked at out here, to look virtually and just feel comfortable knowing the neighborhoods that we are still looking in. Before you come out, I would highly recommend ranking your non-negotiables. Mine, for example, number 1 was that it had to be dog friendly. And I will tell you that if you're a pet owner, that does take off quite a few apartments, just because some people just do not allow pets out here, which is fine. There's still plenty to look at. Dishwasher was something I really wanted. A south-facing window was something I really wanted. Not in unit laundry, but in building laundry was a non-negotiable for me. Sometimes your non-negotiables are going to end up getting negotiated. For instance, I really wanted a south-facing window, but I ended up getting large bay windows that face north. We still get plenty of light, but it's just a little different. Or I wanted to be in a specific neighborhood that we had to pay more for and with less space when you could live somewhere else and have more space. It's just, there's a lot of things. You get something, you might have to give up something else, and that's okay. Time to move into the budget portion of the video. So this is very important because you want to be able to afford to move out here. And it is very expensive, I'm gonna tell you right away. A lot of people have roommates and they share the rent, and that makes it a lot more manageable. But we're gonna break this down just so you can get an idea of how much it costs to move, and you can start getting that savings built up so you can move out here yourself. These are the things that you're going to pay up front after you have signed your lease. You are going to need your first month's rent. You are going to need your security deposit, which is your first month's rent again. You're going to need a broker's fee, possibly. So I'll explain the difference between paying the broker's fee or a no-fee apartment. And the broker's fee can range from 3% to 15% of your annual rent, not just 1 month. And there are some places that were no fee, and I saw this a lot during the height of COVID. And that basically means that the landlord is actually paying the broker's fee in place of you. I don't see this as often anymore, but I did see it a lot this past spring and summer. You're going to pay all of these things up front along with your application fee, which is $20. They cannot charge you more than that, it's a law. So $20 per application. I believe it is per person though. So if there's multiple people on the application, for instance, me and my husband, it was $40. Let's use actual numbers to come up with the numbers so that you can get an idea of this in your head. So if your rent was $2,800 a month, you would have $2,800 for your first month's rent, $2,800 for your security deposit. Let's do the max broker's fee, 15%. That's going to be $5,040. So you have a total of $9,200 plus $20. And that is what you're going to need up front the first month. And I'm saying this is the budget, but if you're someone like me that's moving cross country, maybe you need a plane ticket and you're just moving out with a suitcase. In my instance, we brought furniture and had to pay for a U-Haul and hotel rooms. So that is just a portion of the budget if you are just moving out here from somewhere else outside of New York State. It is a lot of money. I highly recommend, like I said 3 to 4 months when I started looking for apartments, but in reality, it is a big financial decision. So it may take a year just to start honing down and working on the finances and getting ready to move out here. And that's okay. If it's truly your dream, make it happen. And a lot of people out here live with roommates, multiple roommates, and it makes it more affordable. So there's a lot of different avenues that you can take. I'll talk a little bit more about this at the end of the video. If you kind of want to dip your toes in, there's some ways that you can do that too. We made it to the application process. So like I said before, it is $20 per person on the application, and you are going to have to make 40 times the rent. So if you live by yourself, it's going to be 40 times the rent. If you live with somebody else, both of you together are going to have to come up with 40 times the rent based on both of your salaries. We're using the 2,800 number. If you are just a single person, you are going to have to make $112,000 a year. And if you are living, let's say, with 2 other people, so you and 2 other people, the 3 of you together need to make $112,000 a year. You also need to have good credit. So a low credit score would be around 650. And you can go online before you start applying to these apartments and check it on annualcreditreport.com. If you haven't done it yet, you can check that and just make sure that that's good to go. And let's say that you either don't make 40 times the rent or your credit score doesn't work out, then that's when you could move into using a guarantor. And for some people, this would mean maybe mom or dad or a guardian. Your guarantor needs to make 80 times the rent. So if we're going back to using that $2,800 number, that's going to be $224,000 a year that the person or the couple needs to make annually. That is a lot of money. So not everybody has that kind of money. And if you don't have somebody like that, then that's when you pivot into maybe a guarantor company. And in New York, there's the Guarantors, Rhino, and what did I write down? Insurant. And basically, it's an insurance policy for your rent. Let me tell you, if you don't pay your rent, the landlord's going to go after your guarantor, whether that's your mom or your dad or your guardian or this company. And then I don't know about your family, but the company is going to come after you for rent still. So you need to be able to pay the rent. Find something that you can afford. Basically, the guarantor companies charge you a monthly fee, and they basically will say that we'll front your rent, and sometimes they'll even do the security deposit if it's too much, and you'll just pay that over the course of the year instead of all at once. But like I said, if you default on anything, they will come after you. So you need to know that ahead of time. Other things that you may need for your application are bank statements, pay stubs, tax returns, and also a letter of employment stating your salary on it just for proof for the landlord. And then if you are self-employed, it's a whole nother ballgame. You may need letters from your CPA just to prove that you are going to be making that amount of money in the upcoming year. To summarize for the application, I would recommend putting together a PDF with copies of your ID, an employment letter with your salary on there, pay stubs for the past 3 months, your bank statements for the past 3 months, and also your tax returns for the past 2 years. There is a possibility that they could request more documentation, but that's what we had, so we could readily email it to the broker once we found the place that we loved. And also they will run the credit report and background check on you. So that's what you need to know for the application process. Something that happened to us was that we use an online bank. We use Ally. So a lot of these landlords are old school and wanted a physical check. A, we don't live in New York, and B, we couldn't just go online to our bank and get a check. You have to go into a bank and get that. And so we had to be able to use the debit card, take out the cash, and then get a cashier's check. And a lot of times they won't take the apartment off the market until they have this. Luckily, our broker was amazing, was able to get them to hold on to it, and we overnighted the checks, and it all worked out. But something to think about if you are, I know a lot of younger people use online banks, so you want to be prepared for that and make sure that you are able to have those checks ready when they give you the go-ahead and you get approved. Another thing I've heard of people doing is using websites like Listings Project and just dipping their toes in the water to see if they like living in the city. And this is a great website. It's kind of sent out like a newsletter, and it's people that are maybe traveling to Europe for a month and just want to rent out their apartment for a month. People find listings on Facebook too. There's a lot of New York Facebook listings, but you just want to be safe about it. But if you don't want to just jump into a lease right away, there are a lot of different ways that you could just come and live here, or Airbnb for 2 weeks or a month, and just see if you even like living in the neighborhood. I know it's kind of a long video, but I'm gonna start wrapping it up. And I forgot to even mention in the beginning my backstory. I moved here in July of 2021 with my husband and my dog. I have 2 videos. We went apartment hunting in Brooklyn, and we went apartment hunting in Manhattan. The reason for that we didn't narrow it down quite to one neighborhood or a couple neighborhoods in one borough is that my husband works from home and I was ready for a career change, so we were super flexible. I will say it was really important for us to be near a train stop because I did end up commuting to work, and it's really great to be near a train line. We did come out here to look for 4 days. I'm so glad that we did. We really got to understand what the neighborhood was like because the apartment that we thought we were getting fell through, and we ended up using Triplement, a broker through Triplement who did FaceTime tours with us, and we ended up getting our apartment that way. And we felt a lot more comfortable because we had been in the neighborhoods. Video is always better than photos, but still, even with the video, when you get into the actual space, you're like, whoa, there's definitely small things that you don't notice, but it ended up working out for us. Okay, that was a lot of information. I hope that I covered the basics for you so that it's helpful once you're ready to start your move to New York and your apartment hunt. All these things make it a little bit easier. I wish you all of the luck. I had wanted to move to New York since I was a child, and it took a while, but it was so worth it once I got here. And I'm happy to answer any questions in the comments, or if you have anything to add that you think would be helpful, please comment below. I'll see you guys in the next video.